So before Biden even spoke yesterday, CNN had a chyron that said Biden to eviscerate Donald Trump, which sounded a little violent to me. I don't know, just the idea that he was going to cut open Donald Trump and rip out his guts. It's not the sort of thing you announce on CNN. It's the sort of thing, like after it's done, you might say, wow, he really eviscerated him. But to announce that this is what's coming, I don't know, it just seemed a little strange. But Biden did mention Trump again and again and again. I don't know how many times, I lost count. But what got me about it is he's selling this completely sentimental idea of Barack Obama, which is built up over 8 years of supine press worship of Obama, right? I saw on Twitter the other day, this woman said, I went to the National Gallery and saw I saw Obama's portrait and I burst into tears. And I said to the guard, do you get a lot of criers? And the guard said, yes. And I tell him, don't cry, fight back. And I thought, well, I cried for all 8 years of the Obama presidency, so I understand. But that is the lie that was created, the lie of this civil, statesman-like man with remember, he's scandal-free. We all know he's scandal-free. And Biden knows the press will do that for him. He knows the empire of lies exists. He knows Stephen Colbert will back him up. He knows Netflix will make movies about it. They'll send movies, in the theaters about it. And so he's playing on that and depending on that to carry him through. So listen to Biden talk about basically Obama versus him as the new Obama, Biden is the new Obama, and Trump as the evildoer who has ended all civility in government. This is cut number 1.
He's setting a standard of crude language and embarrassing behavior that is burrowing deep into our culture, for real, into our culture. And it's going to take some time to get rid of it, but we must. We must. It's not who we are. And folks, thirdly, our democracy. Our democracy is at risk. I never thought I'd use those words in my lifetime, but it's true. Everywhere you turn, Trump is tearing down the guardrails of democracy, tearing down the things that prevent the abuse of power. Whether it's a man raising his hand to strike a woman or a child, or an employer threatening workers and treating them like dirt, or an American president who has no respect for the rule of law, I can't stand it, and most Americans can't stand the abuse of power. Fake news, enemy of the people. These aren't words to be laughed at or dismissed. Just look what's happening around the world. Think of the dictators and tyrants using the exact same language Trump uses to justify their abuses of power in their countries. Not a joke. Think about it. Trump's goal is simple. Discredit the news, discredit the free press, and run over the American people in terms of their safeguards roughshod.
So Joe Biden representing himself from the Obama administration. And first of all, if I have to listen to another 4 years of That's Not Who We Are, I may actually get in a rowboat and start paddling for France myself. But he's talking about Trump's attacks on the press, no question, enemy of the people, fake news. Let's just think about the reality, okay? Just for a sec. I mean, I hate to shatter the glass palace of the Democrats that's the center of the Democrat empire of lies. But think about what Obama actually did. Let me read this. This is from Beckett Adams in the Washington Examiner. It's not even up to date, but it is up to date for now. 2009, the Obama White House intentionally excluded Fox News' Chris Wallace from participating in a round of interviews. The White House initially lied about this, and many in the press went along with it. It wasn't until 2011 that the public learned the truth. An internal email showed the White House director of broadcast media told Treasury officials specifically, we'd prefer if you skip Fox, please. In 2010, the Obama administration renewed the bogus Bush-era subpoena against the New York Times' James Risen in a prolonged attempt to determine whether the reporter was the recipient of leaked CIA information. In February 2011, federal investigators were revealed to have spied on Risen. Federal investigators pored over Risen's credit reports and his personal bank records. This is a New York Times reporter. The feds even tracked his phone logs and movements under Obama. In 2012, Fox was mysteriously excluded from a White House conference call pertaining to the terrorist attacks in Benghazi. Fox was also excluded from an all-network CIA briefing regarding the attacks. In 2013, the Obama Justice Department labeled then Fox News reporter James Rosen a criminal co-conspirator under the Espionage Act of 1917, and all because the reporter used a State Department contractor as a source for a story. Rosen was also labeled a flight risk. The Justice Department seized the records of at least 5 phone lines connected to Fox News. The federal law enforcement agency even seized the phone records of Rosen's parents. The FBI also got a warrant to search Rosen's emails from 2010. In May 2013, the Associated Press revealed that the Justice Department had secretly collected 2 months' worth of personal and work-related phone calls made by AP reporters and editors. Federal officials secretly obtained records on incoming and outgoing calls made by specific AP journalists, as well as general news staff. The news group reported potentially compromising many sources totally unrelated to the investigation. 2014, the Obama administration set the record. They set the record for denying the most Freedom of Information Act requests of any administration, and it topped that in 2015. So Donald Trump calls the press the enemy of the people, and he calls them fake news. Obama was spying on them. No scandal Obama was spying on them. That's also, again, bringing up the IRS silencing of political opposition and potentially the FBI's investigation of an opposition political campaign. We're talking about words versus deeds. It's a great big difference. So let's listen to Trump responding to some of this. This is cut number 4, talking about the Democrats.
Nancy is a mess. The Democratic Party is a mess. They're doing everything they can to win the election in 2020. They are guilty of many crimes, many crimes, what they've done. They're guilty of many crimes. And hopefully in a short period of time, that'll be seen. They should never have done what they've done. And all they do is waste time on these investigations where there's no obstruction, no collusion, no nothing. And in the meantime, they can't get a border deal done. They can't do anything. We need, in addition to the great deal with Mexico, we need them to work on illegal immigration, on lower drug prices, on infrastructure, and they're not doing anything. They've come to a halt.
So Trump is acting alone, right? He has no empire of lies surrounding him. They keep complaining about Fox News, where Hannity and Laura Ingraham support Trump. But of course, that's the 2 shows on that, on Fox News. And everybody keeps complaining about him because they're the only station where he gets any support at all. Everybody else, what he just said there, perfectly reasonable political point. They're not doing anything. They're wasting their time with these investigations. But all those investigations are given credence by a news media and an entertainment media that are going to say this is reality. So Biden is operating in this world that simply does not exist. The world of a wonderful Obama who let the press do anything. Even at the time, the New York Times was complaining, people at the New York Times were complaining that Obama was the most oppressive, most intrusive president against the press they had ever seen, okay? Whereas what has Trump done? Who has he arrested? He threw, what's his name? Look at me, I'm Jim Acosta, out of the press corps for a little while because he manhandled a woman trying to wrest the mic out of his hands. But aside from that, really, what has he done? What has he done to oppress the press? Virtually nothing, and yet they are sitting there saying, oh my God, here's the Hitler coming after us, and Biden knows it. He knows he can do it. Let's listen to a little bit more of Biden making accusations against Trump that simply are not true.
I believe that the president is literally an existential threat to America for 3 reasons. One, he is a genuine threat to our core values. And if you wondered about that, remember what happened in Charlottesville. I never thought I'd see that happen in my lifetime again. And what happened? When he was asked to comment on it, he said, quote, there were very fine people in both groups. No president of the United States, Democrat or Republican, has ever said something like that. Never. And it was a response heard round the world. But most importantly, as a response heard by our children. Our children were listening. The idea that we give credit. Look, folks, America was built in the way we were built, basic core values. decency, honor, leaving no one behind, realizing that there are things that are bigger than you in America, that we have to get together, we have to cooperate.
So the Trump thing was indeed, as Biden said, heard around the world. It was a lie. In that press conference, like a couple of lines down, Trump said, I'm not talking about the white supremacists. I'm not talking about the Nazis. They deserve to be universally condemned. So he was obviously referring to people who were arguing about what the statue was, whether the statue stayed up and what the park was called. There were good people on both sides, which no doubt was true. So he can do that because that myth was promulgated by the press. It was spread by the press, spread by Stephen Colbert, spread by the late night comics, continually put out there. So now when it's debunked, nobody knows. Nobody knows it was debunked. I mean, that is just not going to be repeated anywhere near the number of times. Biden knows it. He knows he's living in the empire of lies. He wants to be emperor of the empire of lies and make it to the White House that way. And by the way, just to add to this, when he says that America was built on ideas of leaving no one behind and cooperation and dignity and honor, no, it wasn't. Dignity and honor, of course, are wonderful, wonderful things. And I'll get to that. I'll get back to that in a moment. But that's not what America was built on. It was built on the idea of a limited government, a government very restrained by a constitution that enumerated its powers and that it had no powers except those that were enumerated in the Constitution. It has veered from that idea with the help of guys like Joe Biden. That's the idea that America was built on. Dignity and honor, always a good thing. But the idea of leaving no one behind, show me that. Show me in the Constitution where it says we'll leave no one behind. When you're free, people get left behind. That's one of the things that happens when you're free. If you don't like being free, you can have everybody equal. You know, the two times people are equal is when they're slaves and when they're dead. That is when people are equal. But all America promised was equal treatment under the law and equal defense of your rights. And those are two values that the Democrats have veered from. So again, just everything he says, he depends on this structure that has been built up. And by the way, partly the right's fault, right, for allowing that to happen. It's partly the right. There's no inherent reason why the news media has to be run by Democrats. There's no inherent reason why universities have to have been taken over by the left. There's no inherent reason why the conservatives don't have movie studios, distribution arms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. All of those were built by people who happen to be on the left, using tech people who are on the left because they were trained in colleges where they're taught to be on the left. That is not necessarily the way it has to be. We let that happen. We stood by and let that happen while we were arguing over nonsense like who wins the 130th congressional district in, you know, Rhode Island or whatever, and you know, getting tied up on issues that we were never going to win. So we allowed that to happen because we're always worried about the moment. We're always in a panic, and we don't pay attention to the culture, the bigger things that are taking place. So here's the thing, the one thing on which Biden and all of the Democrats have a strength, which is the question of dignity and civility. And I'll get back to this in a minute, but let's hear Biden go after Trump in his, Trump go after Biden, I'm sorry, in his typical Trumpian way, cut one.
When a man has to mention my name 76 times in a speech, that means he's in trouble. Now, I have to tell you, he's a different guy. He looks different than he used to. He acts different than he used to. He's even slower than he used to be. So I don't know. But when he mentions my name that many times, I guess I should be complimented. No, I'd rather run against, I think, Biden than anybody. I think he's the weakest mentally. And I like running against people that are weak mentally. I think Joe is the weakest up here. The other ones have much more energy. I don't agree with their policies. But I think Joe is a man who is, I call him 1% Joe, because until Obama came along, he didn't do very well. Joe Biden thought that China was not a competitor of ours. Joe Biden is a dummy. Joe Biden thought China was not a competitor. China made $500 billion over a short period of time against Obama, Biden, and for many, many years, in all fairness to them.
So we've all gotten used to Trump at this point. We've gotten used to that tone of voice, that he's a dummy, that he hasn't got anything up here and all this stuff. And we got used to it, or at least I did. I accepted it because I knew the alternative was so much worse. The alternative, the socialism, the slavery, the infanticide. I mean, we're not even arguing about abortion anymore. We're arguing about the killing of babies who have been born or who are about to be born. I'm not going to like detail how that takes place. I'm sure some of you, most of you probably have heard it at some point. It's unbearable. It's unbearable to be in a country where people are arguing that should be done to essentially a living child. I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd and evil that we're arguing with that. That is the alternative.